And what I've suggested, if now, because he's the nominee for the party, and he's entitled to briefings from the CIA, for example, I said publicly, give him fake briefings. Pretend you're briefing him. Don't tell him anything.
Minority Leader Harry Reid, in a letter to the director of the FBI, claims the Bureau has, quote unquote, explosive information about Trump and Russia.
I thought it was important to put the FBI on notice, do something about it.
Trump. Now, the story says that a former senior intelligence officer claims he gave the FBI evidence that, quote, there was an established exchange of information between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin of mutual benefit.
I want to begin by asking you again about these reports between a Trump organization computer and a Russian bank.
U.S. intelligence agencies are expected to brief President Obama today on their latest Russian hacking findings. The president ordered the report in December. President-elect Trump will get that very same briefing tomorrow.
Give him fake briefings.
What does that even mean?
It means they'll tell him stuff. He won't know the difference.
The president-elect sitting down with the spy masters, America's most senior intelligence officials, hearing their unequivocal assessment that Vladimir Putin ordered the hack of the U.S. election with the intention of electing Trump, and still, Donald Trump doesn't seem to buy it.
But you just published fake news.
We just published a dossier. No, I think that's a really...
Why is that not why is that an unfair description?
This was a real story about a real document that was really being passed around between the very top officials of this country. And then the question you say is, okay, it's okay for you, Chuck Todd, to see this document. It's okay for me to see it. Okay for John McCain. Okay for the CIA. Why is it not okay for your audience?
Let me start with the president's tweets yesterday. This idea that maybe President Obama ordered an illegal wiretap of his offices.
For the part of the national security apparatus that I oversaw as DNI, there was no such wiretap activity mounted against the president-elect at the time, or as a candidate, or against his campaign.
If the FBI, for instance, had a FISA court order of some sort for a surveillance, would that be information you would know or not know?
Yes.
You would be told this.
I would know that.
If there was a FISA court order.
Yes, something like this, absolutely.
And at this point, you can't confirm or deny whether that exists?
I can deny it.
There is no FISA court order?
Not to my knowledge.
Of anything at Trump Tower?
No.
Well, that's an important revelation.
Meanwhile, new information shows the FBI used a controversial dossier of alleged contacts between President Trump and Russian agents as evidence for a secret surveillance warrant.
The FBI used a dossier of allegations of Russian ties to Donald Trump's campaign as part of the justification to get approval to secretly monitor Trump associate.
So let's talk about this dossier. When we first heard about it, there was some discussion as to whether or not the content was even valid. Certainly salacious, very interesting stuff, but truthful, we didn't know.
The FBI Director James Comey has cited the dossier in some of his briefings to members of Congress in recent weeks as one of the sources of information that the Bureau used to bolster its investigation.
So I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter.
In a remarkable admission, Comey revealed he did it to impact the investigation he was no longer in charge of.
I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel.
The 35-page dossier details some of the most explosive allegations now under investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller.
The 35-page document alleges the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians and includes uncorroborated, salacious allegations about Trump himself.
We already know that the part about the coverage that they have on him with sex actions is supposed to be true.
CBS News confirms the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign helped pay for controversial research into President Trump's ties to Russia.
Maggie Haberman of the New York Times eloquently puts it, folks involved in funding this lied about it, and with sanctimony, for a year.
Clinton campaign and Democratic National Committee hired the firm Fusion GPS for opposition research in 2016, which concluded before the election. Christopher Steele, a former British spy, producing an explosive document, including some salacious but unverified information about Donald Trump and his potential ties to Russia.
This Steele dossier, you were the chief campaign strategist. When did you know that the campaign was helping to pay for part of it?
First of all, I only learned that when it came out in the paper.
I didn't know that we were paying the contractor that created that document. I didn't.
I regret I didn't know about Christopher Steele's hiring pre-election. If I had, I would have volunteered to go to Europe to try to help him. How could you not know that the Clinton team was paying for it. And didn't someone in the Clinton campaign know this?
How could both the chair of the DNC and the Clinton campaign not know about these payments?
I really do think that the committee is going to have to get into this, determine just exactly what happened, who knew what, and when.
And I don't care who they run across, as long as we get to the bottom of it.
But
We got to get to
do
the
you see
bottom of
these
it.
things, Senator, as equivalent of the Hillary
No,
Clinton campaign
not
looking
at
for
all.
dirt from Russians and
No.
Russians offering dirt to the Trump campaign?
If you're asking about the dossier, that was funded by a conservative.
In July, to our colleague Anderson Cooper, you said, quote, there's a difference between going out and hiring opposition firms that work in the United States of America and going on and soliciting information from a foreign national. Christopher Steele, who compiled this dossier, was a foreign national.
Brian Fallon, Clinton's former national press secretary, tweeted, if even a shred of that dossier ends up helping Mueller, it will prove money well spent.
I believe there's been collusion.
I wanted to present you with a little gift which represents what President Obama and Vice President Biden and I have been saying. We saw cold, hard evidence. We want to reset our relationship, eagerly intending to collude with Russia.
My last election, yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah. I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir and understand what.